All right, let's talk about product management books, but forget your average run-of-the-mill reading list. Today, we're not just listing books, we're actually unlocking a complete curriculum. Think of it as a roadmap designed to help you truly master the complex, super challenging, but also incredibly rewarding world of product management.
So here's the big question, right? How do you take a job as famously complex and, let's be honest, ambiguous as product management and turn it into a clear path for mastery? It sits right at that crazy intersection of tech, business, and design. But what if? What if there was a structured way to build the exact skills you need, step by step? Well, that's exactly what we're going to explore. This is all about a curated curriculum that cuts a clear path right through all that ambiguity.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with the idea of the curriculum itself. Then we'll dive deep into the three core pillars: the foundation, which is all about building and learning; the connection, focusing on communication; and the strategy, which is about how to dominate your market. And we'll wrap it all up with a challenge for you, a first test. Sound good? Let's jump in.
Right, so this is really the key idea. We're not just talking about 10 random good books. Think of this more like a single cohesive course. It's a deliberate path where each book builds on the last one. We're going to go from the absolute core mechanics of just building a product all the way up to the super high-level strategy you need to actually win in the market. So this is our learning path, a roadmap. Step 1 is the foundation. This is where you master the how-to of building stuff and learning effectively. Once you've got that down, we move to step 2, the connection. This is all about understanding and persuading people. And finally, we get to the top, step 3, the strategy. This is where you learn to think about the entire market and, how to win. Okay, let's start at the very beginning with the foundation. This section is all about the absolute fundamental loop of product management. You know the drill. You have an idea, you build some version of it, and then you learn from your users as fast and as efficiently as you possibly can. And the cornerstone, the absolute bedrock of this foundation, has to be the one that pretty much started a movement, The Lean Startup by Eric Ries. Seriously, this book is like the operating system for modern product development. It's all about speed, learning, and most importantly, avoiding that classic soul-crushing trap of building something that nobody actually wants. The whole thing boils down to this super simple but incredibly powerful idea, the build, measure, learn feedback loop. The idea is, instead of locking yourself away for months building in secret, you push out a minimum viable product, an MVP, just to get something in front of real users. Then you measure how they react, and you learn from that real-world data to figure out what to do next. It's a cycle, and its whole purpose is to turn your guesswork into cold, hard facts. All right, so if the Lean Startup gives you the why, that whole theory of validated learning, then the MOM test by Rob Fitzpatrick gives you the how. This is the practical, in-the-trenches field guide for actually talking to customers and not getting totally useless, biased feedback. And here's the crucial insight, the reason it's called the MOM test. Most people, and especially your own mom, are just trying to be nice. You tell them your cool new idea, and they'll say, "Oh, that's great." This book teaches you how to completely bypass that politeness bias. The trick? You ask about their life, their past behavior, their existing problems, not their opinion on your hypothetical solution. That's how you get to the truth. So, once you've figured out what problem you're actually solving, you still have to build a solution that people can, use. And that's where Steve Krug's absolute classic, Don't Make Me Think, comes in. It's pretty much the Bible of usability, and its core message is just as relevant today as it was when it first came out. And really, this one quote just captures the entire philosophy of the book. A product should be obvious and self-explanatory, minimizing the user's cognitive load. Basically, your product should never feel like a puzzle. Every single time a user has to stop and think, "Wait, what do I do now?" or "Where do I click?" That's a point of friction. Krug's big lesson is that you have to be absolutely ruthless in getting rid of that mental work, that cognitive load, making their path forward totally obvious. Now, to round out this whole foundation section, we have what I like to call the execution toolkit. 2 books. First, there's Sprint. It gives you this amazing, super structured, 5-day playbook for going from a huge problem all the way to a tested prototype. Then you've got Lean Analytics, which is the perfect partner to the Lean Startup. It's the book that teaches you how to measure what actually matters, actionable metrics, instead of just chasing those vanity numbers that look good on a chart but don't really mean anything. All right, so now you've got the tools to build and learn, it's time to shift gears and master the human side of this whole equation. How do you actually build products that people fall in love with? And just as important, how do you talk about them in a way that truly resonates?
Well, that's what this next section, the connection, is all about.
And first up in this section is Hooked by Nir Eyal. This book is a fascinating deep dive into the psychology of habit. I mean, have you ever wondered why you just mindlessly scroll through certain apps without even thinking about it? Well, Nir Eyal literally breaks down the blueprint for building products that become an automatic, ingrained part of a user's life.
And this is his famous four-step process, the hook model. It all starts with a trigger. Think of a notification on your phone. That trigger leads to an action, which is you opening the app. Then comes the magic part, the variable reward. This is the unpredictable discovery of new photos, new posts, new information that creates a craving and keeps you scrolling. And finally, you make an investment. You like a photo, you write a comment, you follow someone. That little bit of work loads the next trigger and makes the product even more valuable to you next time.
Next up, we've got a really powerful 1-2 punch for communication. On one hand, you have obviously awesome. This book gives you a systematic process to find the what. What is the core story? What is the right positioning for your product? Then, once you know that story, building a story brand gives you the template for how to tell it, with the key insight of making your customer the hero of the story. I love the analogy. One helps you find the diamond in the rough, and the other helps you cut and present it perfectly.
Okay, so we can build things, we can learn from our users, and we can communicate our value. We're ready for the final piece of the curriculum, strategy. This is where we level up. It's all about zooming way out from your specific product to see the entire competitive landscape. And it's about figuring out how to not just compete with everyone else, but how to create your own lane entirely. And for strategy, we have to start with the absolute legend, The Innovator's Dilemma by Clayton Christensen. This book is just essential reading. It's the key to understanding that huge, nagging question: why do great, successful, well-run companies so often get completely disrupted and fail? It's a massive cautionary tale for any product manager who's part of a successful product.
And here's the core theory, in a nutshell. Disruptive innovation almost never starts by attacking the main market head-on. Instead, it starts in some small, overlooked niche with a product that honestly might even seem worse than the existing solutions. But it gets a foothold, it improves, and then it moves up market. By the time the big incumbent company notices, it's already too late. And here's the kicker. The reason they fail is because they listen only to their best, highest-paying customers, which blinds them completely to the next big thing bubbling up from below.
So, how do you avoid that dilemma? How do you become the disruptor instead of the disrupted? Well, Blue Ocean Strategy gives us the answer. The book argues that instead of fighting all your competitors in a crowded, bloody red ocean, the goal should be to create a blue ocean, a brand new, uncontested market space where there literally is no competition. It's not about beating the competition, it's about making them completely irrelevant by just changing the game.
And that brings us to the end of our curriculum. Think about it. We've covered the entire stack, right? From the nitty-gritty foundational mechanics of how to build something, all the way up to the highest level strategy of how to dominate a market. The only thing left to do now is to actually put this whole playbook to work.
So, let's recap. This whole curriculum really boils down to 3 key stages of mastery. First, you have to master the foundation, that build, measure, learn loop, getting feedback. Second, you perfect the connection with your users through psychology and great storytelling. And third, you own the strategy by understanding how to create brand new value and completely redefine the market you're in.
And that leaves us with one last, really crucial question. Because this isn't just academic, right? It's a practical toolkit. So I want you to think about everything we just covered. What is the single biggest, most foundational assumption you hold about your product or your customers right now? And more importantly, how are you going to use the principles from these books to go out and test it this week? That right there, that's your first foundational test.